Hey y'all, welcome to the Jessica Diaries. I'm Jessica. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I'm a little bit annoyed because when I tell y'all, I have been trying to film this video for over a month. Every single time in every filming session that I have tried to film this video, something either happens, somebody comes to my house, my kids interrupt me, I get a phone call, or I cannot seem to get my words out. Part of me almost gave up and said, forget it, maybe I don't need to say it. But no, I do need to talk about this because this is the type of content that I feel like is the most true to me. I know I can't be the only one that's kind of feeling this, going through this, thinking this, or, praying about this or whatever. But you see the title and you have probably seen lots of end times related content across YouTube and other places lately, especially as events around the world continue to ramp up. And part of me was starting to feel a little anxiety because I grew up in a Baptist church. I had an extremely rough mental, spiritual depression after leaving the last church that I attended around the pandemic time, which I talked all about that on my channel. And so where I'm at now, I'm a lot more sure of my spiritual beliefs, but still certain topics bring me anxiety. I can't help it. I got church trauma on both ends, from hell and fire and brimstone preaching to only preaching about women and what they do wrong and how bad they are, to being, told that, or not told per se, but seeing that black people are still oppressed and subservient to white people and oppressed by white people in church. Like, I have been through so much when it comes to my spirituality. I have a lot of trauma there, but I've never lost like my relationship with the Lord. In fact, it has gotten better. I hear him more. I have an intimacy with God that I have never had before in my life. And it took me going through all those things, but in particular, leaving the church for me to get here. So with that said, if you want to know more about my background or if you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. But I do have videos scattered here and there across my page, my main page, and on my home feed. You can see a spirituality section. So like, you can look through that stuff if you want to know more. My views for the most part have not changed a whole lot, maybe just a little. And my understanding has deepened a little since I was making those all the times. But forget all that. The reason I'm here today making this video is because I want to talk about living in the balance of prophecy and reality. If you watch YouTube like I do every day, YouTube is my favorite platform out of any platform, streaming platform, TV platform, social media platform. Like, I just love YouTube. I love how much variety is on YouTube. But of course, when you watch certain content, more of that appears. And so lately I've just noticed, not even in people that I watch all the time, but just across the board, there has been a lot more end times content and content related to the second coming of Christ, the end of the world, the new world order, all that kind of stuff. And low key, not even low key, high key, it's been giving me a lot of anxiety. Mainly because, one, I have the church trauma, but also because growing up in a Southern Black Baptist church in Mississippi, to be exact, you hear about the end times and the end of the world from day one, right? Like, that is a lot of the preaching. All I can remember about church is the end of the world. So it's something that I feel like believers have been conditioned and primed to look for and to think about and to try to pinpoint its occurrence with current events, which in some ways is okay, but in other ways I do think it can be problematic. But for the most part, I guess what I'm trying to say is, as someone who grew up hearing about it and feeling like it was so far distant in the future, now I'm feeling more and more like we may actually be the generation to see this unfold, because we're seeing a lot of things unfold now. And so I kind of want to talk about the unfolding of things, but also talk about like where is our place in it all. Because on one hand, I feel like we should be preparing and making sure that we are ready for whatever. There's just a philosophy in life. Be ready so you ain't got to get ready. That means internally, externally, spiritually, financially, mentally, physically, in every way. Like, that's one part, but I lost my train of thought. See what I mean? This is what I'm talking about. I just can't seem to get it out. I got so much swirling on in my head. Let me pause this, listen back a little bit about where I was going, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I'm talking about our place in all of this, because I do feel like we may be the generation to see this unfold, or for sure our kids. I honestly believe if it's not our generation, I'm a millennial, I'm 38. If it's not our generation, it is more than likely going to be our kids. That is just my personal belief based off what I'm seeing. So I want to talk about the unfolding of these things that we are seeing now, how they connect to the Bible, but also our place in this, because that's the part that frustrates me. So I'm not going to like go through the Bible for real, but I do want to talk about some things that I feel, or things that I think have shown me that the time may be closer than we believe. Also, I want to talk about all the things, the evidence for why I believe that. But I want to speak on my frustration with our place in it. Like, that is the thing that's really like, I guess, not causing me anxiety, but also just a lot of frustration. So first, the evidence. So the reason why I think that this is happening, because look, let me just say this. I told one of my friends this the other day, but y'all who are watching me, I don't even have 600 YouTube subscribers. I have been creating content for I don't know how long. I've taken several breaks because I've had children, had life changes. I've talked about it extensively on this channel. But I'm bringing that up because my spiritual background is important. And I know so many people have been raised in the church, this, and that. But I truly believe that the Lord has like had his hand on me and has spoken to me throughout my life and showed me things that I am just now beginning to understand as a 38-year-old woman, wife, and mom who has held on to my faith despite everything that I've been through. And there was a moment in time where it could have went the other way. So I'm really thankful to my mom. Like, despite the trauma from church is such a toxic thing. Like, that's the best way that I can describe the church as a whole, not one particular church, although there are lots of toxic ones. As a whole, like, just the relationship with the church is so toxic. But at the same time, like, I'm thankful for it, because if my mom didn't have me in church as a child, as a teenager, I probably wouldn't have continued to go to church as an adult on my own. So I'm thankful for the foundation that my mom gave me. But it messed me up in a lot of ways. Saying that to say, when I talk about spirituality, when I talk about God, when I talk about the Bible, I am someone you can trust. Because when I tell you the experience that I went through, I cannot even fully put into words how from that point forward, the Lord has moved in my life. Have I always been obedient? No. But I am telling you the things that he showed me, the deception that he allowed me to come out of so that I can be where I am today. You can trust me. Now, I don't know it all. I ain't never been in no seminary school. I don't even believe in those. I can't say for certain what things in the Bible mean. I am not a prophet. I am not that. Everything that I'm saying is based on my experience and my personal belief. So you do with this what you want to do. I'm really just making this video because I'm trying to find my community. Anyway, I'm just saying you can trust me. Like, if you were having doubts, and trust me with this stuff that I'm saying. Now that that's out of the way, I want to talk about the evidence on why I think that this is unfolding. So when the pandemic started, I was in a church where I was not comfortable at this church. but I was trying to do it because at that point in my life, I was performing. Did I know I was performing? No. I thought I was doing the right thing. My heart was in the right place, but I was performing because I was not doing my due diligence as a believer in Christ in reading the Bible for myself without anyone else's interpretation, without anyone else's guidance. I think that is so important now more than ever. Read the Bible for yourself. So COVID, I believe COVID was a huge shift in society, in the world, or on the planet. There was something significant about that period of time. And it's so crazy because the things that were happening in 2020 are starting to happen again. It really feels like a repeat. So that's another reason why I wanted to talk about this too. But I want to talk about it before I saw that things were repeating. It was a situation in Minnesota when the woman was killed by the ICE agent that made me stop and say, wait a minute. This is like 2020 all over again. Not just with that, but with other things that are going on too. So this is a lot. I'm trying to get it all and stay focused. I'm talking about the evidence. So back then, I was still at my church, but I was not, I wasn't vibing with some things. I wasn't comfortable. I was trying to stick with it because I really want to please the Lord. I'm not perfect. I got my ways, but I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to live right. I'm trying to raise my kids right. I'm trying to be a good wife, all of that. And so I was sticking with it, even though everything in me was telling me something ain't right. I actually felt like that at the beginning when these people were recruiting me, because they were recruiting me. I was feeling like that in the beginning. And since the fallout of that, the things that I have learned about those people at that church, the things that I've learned that they were, that they had discussed around me in particular, has proven everything that I felt in the beginning. But that's neither here nor there. The point that I'm trying to make is that I was in a situation where I was performing. I started to question things because I'm a real individual. What you see is what you get. I'm the same way with everybody. And so when I started to see things, it's just in me to talk about it. I don't like to be in limbo. I don't like to be uncomfortable. I don't like to have tension. I like to get clarity. I like to have an understanding. That's just the type of person I am. So I sought to do that with the issue at the church. Now, my issue then was race. Okay, follow me, stick with me. And the way that race was being handled. This was a multiracial church. Their slogan, their marketing, their whole draw was that our church is what heaven looks like. So I bought into that. As somebody from a traditional Black church, grew up in that space in my whole life, I always went to that type of church. I wanted something new because I felt like the Black church was ineffective. Now, I'm not going to say all Black churches, but the churches that I was at, I just wanted something different because I was moving back home and back to my hometown. And I knew, I'm not going back to the church that I grew up in. Ain't no way I'm doing it. And it's really no other ones, that I can think of that I want to go to. So these people, actually, someone I knew referred me to them and them to me or whatever. And that's how we got connected. But anyway, so I was interested in that type of situation because I did, I'm a Black history, nerd. I'm very radical in my politics for Black people, my community. But at the same time, I have no issues with white people or any other people of any race. I'm going to pull the white woman and white man card and say, I have white friends. So, if this is what heaven is going to look like, then, maybe this is the place that we should be. My husband clocked them in the beginning. He was like, no. This is weird, something off, blah, 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 blah. And I just started to notice things. And so I brought it to the attention of the pastors, went straight to them because I was working in ministry. I was part of the, the team, the plant. I was part of that church plant team, helping them set up. And, I was really, really involved in this church, very involved in many ways. And so I felt comfortable and felt I had the access to the pastors where I could go and say, hey, this is interesting to me. And so that happened around the time of George Floyd being killed. And I noticed that the pastor was very slow. He seemed almost afraid to tell the truth. And I distinctly remember sitting in that space and him saying, you know, he was like, whatever side you're on. And I remember thinking, like, what do you mean, whatever side you're on? It's only one side to this. A man was killed on camera. It was a modern day lynching. It has the country in the uproar, and you're saying no matter what side you're on? Like, it was something to that effect. I don't want to like misquote him. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something. It had to do with whatever side you believe, or no matter what side you're on. And he could have meant politics, but you know, Democrat, Republican, whatever. I don't know. I don't care. That ain't what you say when you're in a church of what heaven's supposed to look like. So there was that was one of many red flags, but it just came to an head because, again, y'all remember at that time this was Trump's first presidency. He was on the tail end of that, and so, you know, it was a lot going on, just like it is now. And I really got offended by that. And, you know, they would say, oh, well, Jesus said not to be offended. You know, any type of gripe that I had, there was a scripture for that gripe, instead of dealing with the reality. Like, you know, it's not just what you're saying, it's what I'm seeing. This is supposed to be what heaven looks like, but there's only certain type of black people you embrace. You feel away if people don't want to, you know, be slaves to ministry. You guilt trip them to that. Then I'm speaking out about something that's bothering me, and you're just like, yeah, you know, it was kind of designed to be that way. So that really soured me, and it took me on this journey to where I started to look into the politics, racial politics in the church. And through that, I came to learn about Jemar Tisby's book, The Color of Compromise. I also got Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. And so as I was reading those books, I realized and learned, I kind of knew that some books of the Bible were missing, but now, you know, we're here. I'm at this point in my spiritual journey. Let's see what it's about. So I started to look into the apocryphal book. I learned how the Bible was canonized and what was left out, that slaves had a different type of Bible. And so all these things started to come to me like, how do we, if we're not safe in the world and we're oppressed in the church, as black folks, what are we supposed to do? And so that started a whole thing. But it's relevant because at that time, I was outcast for that. Those very same people who loved me for everything that I could do and bring and contribute to the church then started treating me like something was wrong with me. They tried to appease me by creating an invite-only race Bible study where these white folks are talking about microaggressions and saying things, not realizing how hurtful it was. I'm crying and it pissed off every Bible study. And I'm like, this ain't helping. And why the hell is it invite only? So it was like all those things. I eventually left the church, but that is when the Lord really, really did a number on me. So through my research, through reading those books, I came across a pastor named Pastor Darby. Pastor Darby broke my brain. I've made several videos about him and how his teachings changed my life. Please go watch those videos. But watching Pastor Darby literally him appearing in my YouTube, I did not search for him. I thought the man was still alive. Like, just watching him, it was affirming the things that I was researching, but I was hearing it in a church type setting. Going through that and doing my independent research and having lots of questions, then Pastor Darby appearing in my algorithm, answering those questions or at the very least, like providing context. I was like, oh my gosh, it was just an overwhelming experience. Again, please go back and watch those videos. I'm bringing it up to basically say the things that people are discovering and comfortably talking about now, 6 years later, almost 6 years later, God showed me this stuff back then. And so now that brings me to the evidence. Number one, what I learned at that time, I learned about, well, the teaching that kind of did it for me with Pastor Darby was his sermon that all religions come from Babylon. That is the start of everything. He also taught that you can understand the end times by reading the beginning of the Bible. The end is at the beginning. And so that kind of brings me back to what I said at the beginning of this video, that you need to read the Bible for yourself, like, period. If you say you believe in Christ, I wouldn't even say call yourself a Christian, but if you, because I don't think that Christianity is what most people think it is. I would argue that Christianity now is kind of controlled by the enemy, but that's another topic for another day. All it took was for me to start reading the Bible for myself, and these things began to be like, you know what? Dang, I never questioned that. Or no pastor. I've been in church my whole life, and not one pastor has ever preached about this. So then it brings into the question, well, what are the seminaries really for? Why did slaves have their own separate Bible? Why do we not use or at least investigate the apocryphal books? Why do you just shun it when the Ethiopian Bible still contains it? Like, it was just a lot of things that didn't make sense. And so that sermon about all religions coming from Babylon led me to actually think about the ancient gods and look at actually read the Bible and be like, okay, so Israel kept doing blah, 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 blah. And then it hit me like, black folks kind of fit the characteristics of Israel. We are very similar in some of these descriptions. Also, pairing that with learning, because at that time I was also introduced to more radical thinkers, or I'm not going to say radical, but black thought leaders that weren't mainstream, like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, Dr. Barbara, what's her last name? Oh my goodness, she has the speech that black people just don't get it. I cannot think of her last name, but her first name is Barbara. Even kind of diving more into Malcolm X, learning about John Henry Clark, learning about Dr. Neely Fuller, all of these black thought leaders and scholars who we were never taught about, and the things that they wrote about. And Dr. Frances Cress Welsing in particular, I was really drawn to her because of her work. I read her books. I mean, it was just like in a very eye-opening period of time, and I felt angry. I was angry at God. I was angry at my parents. I was angry at my teachers. I was angry at the church. I was angry because I felt like a lot of the things that we are struggling with as millennials and younger generations in this world as black people, look, it's laying it out right here. And why don't we talk about why white Jesus was curated and commissioned, and the implications of that for black folks, what that did to destroy the possibility of ever believing in Christ for some black people. Like, it is a problem. It's not just, oh, they did white Jesus because they were racist. And no, like, this destroyed people and their ability to connect with Christ. Even now, when I think about Jesus, I still see that white Jesus in my head because that is what I've always seen. And so I make it a mission. My children don't look at pictures of a Jesus if he white. Like, you can feel how you feel about that, but all of humanity had to have come from a black person. Maybe not black American, maybe, clearly African, but you don't get black from white. You get what I'm saying? You don't get these lighter races from other light race. Like, black can come out in many shades. Anyway, I'm digressing. My point is, black folks are the children of Israel. Now, what black folks? I don't know, but that brings me to my evidence. So the Bible talks about there being a falling away. Specifically as it relates to the children of Israel, you notice that in the Bible, over and over and over and over and over, they would worship the Lord, then start taking on the customs of the land and start worshiping the false gods and giving their children to the fire, child sacrifice to Molech and to Baal. So God would destroy them And then there'd be one person that would rise up, and the children of Israel would turn from their ways and follow God again, and they would be blessed. And then they fall into that circle of the idols and all of that. That is literally what the entire Old Testament is about. Didn't know that till I started reading it. And I'm like, dang, this is just a cycle. Like, God must really love them, because I'm sick of them and what they doing. You know, the book of Kings, like Kings and Second Kings were like really interesting to read. But it just showed like there are so many parallels to Black America. And so the evidence is what I think is interesting is that we see now Black Americans are beginning to delineate, meaning they're saying we are a specific people. And I think that is part of the waking up that has to take place so that God can come, or not so that he can come back or Jesus can come back, but so that the redemption can happen, right? So I thought that was interesting to see the cycle in the Bible. And now we see, oh my God, see what I mean? I told y'all I can't get this video out. Okay, I'm back. So I was talking about the cycle. So Black Americans are delineating, and people are upset about it. Like, everybody mad about it. And by the way, you can thank the Black grassroots media for that. Because people think this is something new. This is something that has been going on. But it's crazy how in the last 2 years, it hasn't even honestly been a long time. But because of the events that are happening in the world, it's being publicized and promoted and spread like wildfire. So now Black people from young to old are talking about delineation. Like, it has become a talking point, and it was not a thing. I mean, it's been a thing, but what I mean is it was not popular. And I just saw today, ABC News referred to Black History Month, and they actually said foundational Black Americans. Now, do I rock with Tariq Nasheed? No. Do I rock with FBA? Not really, but I agree with the delineation. I think FBA is problematic for lots of reasons. Not the phrase. Well, yeah, the phrase, and also the meaning behind it. Literally every time I pick up the camera, somebody call me. So delineation is becoming a mainstream talking point. So that's evidence number one, because in order for Israel to turn away and for God to come and collect his people to, you know, for the second Exodus, all of that, this has to happen. This is something that has to happen. Now, what other group is coming to knowledge of who they are in a way to where it changes everything for that group for the better? Okay? Now, Black Americans have not yet seen any political gain, and we're probably not in this system, because the idea is to keep us from knowing who we are. That's why our history was erased. That's why they're doing the things that they're doing now. And one thing that Pastor Darby said about Black people and what we should try to understand, even though it is hard to understand, is that our trouble is what identifies us. You know, the Bible isn't talking. The children of Israel didn't come from a wealthy nation. I mean, yes, but I'm talking about in modern times. When God comes to redeem his people, Israel ain't at the top. So if those who say they are at the top, they let you know they're not the right people. Like, that on its own. Look at how the scriptures describe Israel, the children of Israel, the tribes of Israel. The Bible also in Revelation lets us know that those who say they are not. You ever wonder why preachers don't preach from Revelation other than end times? Like, they never tell you this part. And that's why I don't believe in seminary, because y'all are just going there being told what to preach and being told what it means from a Western, from a racist point of view. And so you got to throw it all away, in my opinion. And you got to figure it out for yourself. And that's what the Holy Spirit is for. We all have access to it. We don't have to go to a seminary. So that's one thing. That's one piece of evidence. But also within this delineation, this line is being drawn. Because you got to think about it. Black people have been, like, I was teaching my son a Black history lesson the other day, and we were specifically talking about Martin Luther King, and I was trying to help them understand why we honor him. And it's been, this is something that I have avoided. I've tried to kind of go around it, but if we're studying Black history and we're studying these figures, my children got to have the proper context. So I was explaining to them, and I had to tell them the spiritual first. So the things that I'm saying now, they're going to start with it. They're not going to have to be like me. And I was, 34, 35 at the time, maybe 33, learning it about those things. They're going to get that from the start. But I was talking to my son about Martin Luther King and his role in civil rights and what civil rights are and why Black people even needed somebody to fight for them in the first place. And now he a little throwed off. My 8-year-old, like he like a 45-year-old man, probably 50, 60-year-old man in an 8-year-old body. But he was like, I told him, the Martin Luther King speech was given the same year my mom was born. Actually, a few days before she was born. And he was like, and Black people still fight now? And it was like a simple thing, but I was like, yeah, you got more sense than the rest of these people do. Like, we're still fighting for things that we've always been fighting for. And so that's one conversation to have from a political standpoint and why. But also, this is spiritual. Because says who? And that was kind of my thing. Like, that was my thing, which is why I said this could have went another way for me. Because I'm like, why are we still fighting for it? And that's where some of my anger came from God. Like, you made me in this skin. I didn't choose to be Black. I love being Black, but I don't love this oppression. I don't love the racism. I don't love the trauma. I don't love the sadness. I don't love having to explain this to my kids. I don't love worrying about them. I didn't like the fact that I cried when I found out I was pregnant with a boy, because I'm like, oh my God, a Black man, what is he gonna deal with? I felt guilty. Like, I don't like none of that. Why, God? Why? And so studying, if you study from the perspective that we are Israel, then it starts to make a little bit more sense. It's still a mind freak, because it's like, dang, we didn't do nothing to receive this judgment and this punishment. But it's like, dang, if the key is learning who you really are and turning from doing sin and worshiping idols and living in this system trying to take on the customs of these people, if that's all I got to do to get my inheritance, sign me up. And so that's one aspect of this, that we're not going to see what we need to see for Black folks from a political, like, it's not going to happen. And so while I do support reparations and I do believe in reparations, I want my reparations. I am 10 toes down, gonna always stand for someone who supports that, because it is a debt that's owed to the descendants of American slavery. However, the thing that gets it for me is like, it's nothing wrong with fighting for that, but also, like, there's something bigger here. And that's the part where, like, the non-religious radical Black thinkers, they don't really they don't get into that. And I get it. Malcolm X said, the minute you bring up religion, that's when you have division. So let's just leave the religion out of it and focus on the debt and focus on justice. So that's why I support reparations. But aside from that, I'm not looking to any politician to save me or to even save my community. What I'm praying for is that we continue to wake up and know who we really are, and that the people who are against us get out the way. It's a lot of Black people that don't even believe that we are the children of Israel. And how tragic is that? Because if it's not us, who else could it be? So I think the delineation is an indicator that Israel is waking up and preparing to turn away, because you have a lot of folks, say what you want about the Hebrew Israelites, it's probably a cult. They do things that I don't agree with. I could never be a Hebrew Israelite. I have my issues with it. But I can see how people go that route when you come into certain information. So I don't judge them. I mean, we live in America. Being Black in America, it's enough to drive you crazy with everything that we have to deal with from birth, even in the womb, from Black maternal health and all of that. But I don't judge them. Like, who wouldn't go that route if they, were impressionable or wanted community or whatever, wanted to feel belonging. So I don't judge them. I forgot why I even brought them up. But basically, I'm saying that I believe that is some evidence. But also within that, you see a lot of Black Christians leaving Black believers leaving Black Greek letter organizations because of the idol worship. You got some people that are still resisting it. And I'm not going to get into all of that because it's a touchy subject. But you see that happening. You see a lot of Black folks trying to, learn about their history beyond what we were taught in school, beyond slavery. You see a lot of Black people trying to follow more of, the laws from Deuteronomy and things like that. So that is one piece of evidence. Also, I think that these things, like, you have the delineation, you have Black politics and the divide that's happening. You have people that are just not willing to bow down to these politicians and to the government. And that's causing a divide by the people who want to maintain the status quo. And I don't think that divide is bad. I believe it needs to happen for true change to come. And you see what's happening. Like the fact that FBA was mentioned or a news report around foundational Black Americans was published by ABC. That tells you a lot about the change that's happening thanks to the Black grassroots media, not any Black politicians who are only doing what their donors allow them to do. So people are just coming from under the political deception. But at the same time, you see the issues with Israel escalate. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, then a lot of Black folks started talking about the very things I was outcast for saying. Now they're finally admitting, yeah, we do feel a little racism in the church. And this is showing that now y'all being racist because Charlie Kirk got assassinated. And now y'all are saying this and saying that. And how did Black people get in? So those true colors came out because it was someone that they loved versus it being a Black person getting shot on national TV for everyone to see. We see that curse turning, whether or not the assassination of Charlie Kirk was staged, fake, whatever you want to call it, it still produced results. Results meaning it produced a change in the environment, the political environment, racial environment, all of that because of what Charlie Kirk was known to talk about. So you have that, and people finally admitting that these mixed race churches are just more oppression with a happy face and Jesus in the middle of it. Also, you're seeing these things, especially with the Epstein files coming out. Now people are beginning to make those biblical connections that so many folks have sacrificed their lives for exposing, such as, pedophilia, Greek customs and things from Greek culture, and just the ancient gods, satanic rituals, blood sacrifices. Now people are realizing that stuff is real. So I believe that those things, along with many others, the weather, even though we know weather is modified, but just the fact that the government is overreaching so much, the rise of AI, robots, mandatory digital IDs, there's been conversation about microchips to work and to have access to things and just stuff. You're like, what are we, like, what? We're seeing objects in space and the way that the sun is behaving and the moon. And it's just a lot of signs are there. The wars, the rumors of wars. And all of that is kind of bringing me to my other point of where we fall in this, or like our role in this, or what do we do while these things are in play. It makes me feel a lot of emotions for a lot of different reasons. One, I'm sad because, am I sad? Yes, I'm sad because I miss the way things used to be. I miss the normalcy that we had prior to COVID. Like, not having to be so on edge about politics, not feeling like I have to censor myself or, even seeing other people censor themselves. I do not like the way we are moving as a society, how we are losing our rights and people are just like taking it because they're believing the fear mongering. They're believing the lies. They're believing all of these orchestrated chaotic events that are meant to make us fear. So it makes me sad because it's like, damn, we really, and yes, I curse. I still curse. I'm not like, I'm working on it. Okay. So don't come for me in the comments. But it's like, dang, this is sad. This is a sad way to live, to see so many people anxious, to see people unable to make a living, unable to buy homes. It's just sad. The Bible talks about the people, I'm not saying the same words, but like, when there's a bad ruler in place, how people just groan and are unhappy. And so it's sad. It's sad also because I don't know what type of future my children are going to have in this world. Things are changing faster than what I believe people are wrapping their heads around. Just the rise of AI itself. Our children, my God, what are they going to do? As adults, we're still figuring it out. But the people who have developed this, they already have a plan. And it makes me sad because I can only do so much. Like my children are their own people. Like they have their own lives that they're going to have to live. They're going to have their own journeys that they have to go through. And I knew like our parents kind of knew what it would look like for us. They knew it'd be more of the same stuff that they dealt with. They knew that it'd be some technological advances, but life would kind of be similar. But now I don't know what type of life my children will be living with this rise of AI and such. And so that, it makes me sad. It also makes me sad because I don't want the world to end. I do want the evil to end. I want to be free from oppression and stuff, but the world gotta end, and maybe it ain't gonna end. Maybe like I don't know if it ends. I think it's a new earth. But anyway, like this another conversation. But I am like, so it makes me sad. It makes me anxious because whenever I see like people uploading end times content or something else happens, every day, oh, look, the sun is doing this, or there's earthquakes in Italy. There's a high chance for earthquakes. The ring of fire, it's about to erupt, and climate change and just all this doom and gloom. Is like, is anything good gonna happen soon? Like that. All of that stuff gives me anxiety, especially because I see some parallels to when prior to the Black Lives Matter protests, from the killing of George Floyd to now, and how those situations are kind of causing the same outrage, except this time, it's for illegal immigrants. And I know the situation is bigger than that. I'm not even trying to get into that, but it is hard. It's because these individuals are being deported, and even ICE is infringing on the rights of Americans. But Democrats allowed this stuff to happen because they allowed all these people to flood into our borders. But we'll talk about that because I do want to discuss that and help people to understand how illegal immigration does hurt. But, this is not just happening in America, and I'm probably going to lead it out, but it just makes me anxious because you're hearing about these wars, these rumors of wars, these rich billionaire crazy people, sick people who are convening and making decisions about our lives as if we don't have a say-so in how we live and what we want and need out of life. It gives me anxiety because at what length will they go? Even seeing how the COVID vaccine hurt so many people and killed so many people, and folks are having these turbo cancers out of nowhere, and nobody seems to be connecting the dots. And then we see that Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Gates had a conversation about getting rid of people, whatever that means. And so all that kind of stuff gives me anxiety. Like, what is the government going to try to do? Like, am I going to have to, stand on my square, it makes me feel like I have to censor myself. I feel like the walls are closing in, like freedoms are slipping away from us. And that gives me anxiety because I don't know if people have the will to fight anymore. And so that's what kind of brings me to my frustrations. I'm frustrated because, and this is the church, and this is why I feel like seminaries are to blame. But, and not only that, like this lie about being raptured, the rapture lie, which that's really what broke my brain, going back to Pastor Darby. That's what broke my brain, finding out that the rapture is a theory, like that's not biblical. And so it's almost like because people believe that a rapture will take place, they are doing nothing to stop the loss of our rights, to stop some of the things that are happening. People are just kind of going with it and accepting it because it must be divine, because we got to be raptured. You know, like people are so heavenly minded that they're no earthly good. And it frustrates me because if we could put aside differences for just a minute and focus on the things we can agree on, namely in the Black community, we need to just quit arguing about this or that and focus on the fact that we all Black. And the celebrities done even told you they steal niggas in coops. So at the end of the day, you're Black. So you need to unify. We need to unify. We need to focus on our community, and we need to do what we need to do for each other. If you ain't with that, bye. But Black folks, we need to stick together because our skin and our heritage, meaning our holy heritage, the holy lineage that we come from, we don't have allies. We don't have friends. All the nations are against us. It was back then as it is now. It's nothing new under the sun. So we need to unify on that. But it's like people would rather argue. And then, you know, I've asked myself, like, does God change his mind? Like, could we like pray this away? Could we pray and intervene? And you know, in my reading of the scriptures, I feel like the Lord answered that in Joshua. When Joshua was told to tell Nineveh about, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, the coming destruction, and they stopped their evil, wicked ways, and they turned away from it, and God decided not to put that disaster on them. So that showed me that the Lord can change his mind, but we got to cooperate. We the ones that need to change who we are first. So it just kind of frustrates me when we sit back and just accept the bad and the evil like we don't have power, but yet we say it's power in prayer. Why are we not praying against these so-called elite people? Why are we not praying against the real enemies? And that's because of the division, because of race, and because of all that. And I'm not saying that racism and stuff should be, you know, put to the side. What I'm saying is, like I just said, we are heavenly minded and no earthly good. We're not changing anything on earth through the power of prayer. The Bible tells us when two or more are gathered in his name, he is there. I know how powerful prayer is. I can pray about something and God will literally give me a response as soon as I'm done praying. By way of, it has happened to me more so in the last few months than it ever has, but it's just showing me like God is moving swiftly right now. It's kind of scary because I'm like, every time I'm praying about something, he show it to me. And I'm like, oh, he's moving fast for a reason. This is your time. So, you know, this kind of frustrates me. It gives me a lot of emotions. It makes me feel a lot of different ways. And I'm just wondering, which leads me to the question that inspired the video title, how do we live in the balance? Because we know prophecy must be fulfilled. There's no way around it. It has to be fulfilled. That's one component of it, but we still live in this world, in this reality. And sometimes the prophecy being fulfilled, it does mess with your mental to where, forget, you know, like arguing and stuff with other people, but it kind of like, in my case, it's just had me feeling like all over the place. Like, I don't know what to do. because I don't know how to live in a balance for real. Like, we still got to pay bills. We still got to go to work every day. We still have to take care of our children, take care of ourselves, take care of our homes, clean up, cook dinner. All the while, prophecy is unfolding. Like, how do you live in a balance of that? That's my question. And that's what I did all this rambling to get to. So if you have made it to this point in the video, help me and answer that question in the comments. How do we live in a balance of this? Because I don't know. I really don't know. And I'm trying. What has worked though, because I had to kind of take a step back. I, allowed myself a few days to be in my emotions. I'm not going to say depression because I don't think I was depressed, but I allowed myself to feel out of feels when this has, as this has been on me. But, I had to just go back to the word, and that does help. It does help. It's a comforter. It's a guide. It at least gets you in the right mind frame. Like, okay, maybe the answer is in Matthew 6, and I think it's 30, it's Matthew 6 and 30 something, where Jesus is telling the people, worry about today. Today got enough trouble for today. Don't worry about tomorrow. So that's kind of the peace that I try to have, but I do have my moments. So I'm saying all this to say, please tell me, how do we live in the balance of this? How are you living in the balance of this? If you can relate to what I'm saying and what I'm feeling. This is like probably the most unpolished video I've ever put up, but I just had to get this out. It has really been on me, and it's just another, like, in my personal walk, I deal a lot with like other people's opinion. I used to be a people pleaser, not a people pleaser anymore, but I've kind of started hiding, partly out of protection, but partly out of, and I'm not hiding literally. What I mean is, like, I'm not as visible online as I used to be, partly because I'm trying to protect myself and my family from this crazy, evil world. And people have sucked the fun out of social media. It's not even fun anymore. But I'm a content girly. Like, I was made to do this. I was created to communicate. And I think my journey that has led me here is reinforcing that even more. Like, I have to continue to be that person and shine my light, which Jesus also talked about in Matthew. Shining your light and being that light so others can see. So I don't do myself, my personal ministry. Not that I have a ministry, but we all have a personal ministry, my brand, whatever you want to call it. I don't do myself and the people that need me and my voice any favors by hiding. So I can't do that. So that's kind of why I've been a little absent here, because I'm trying to figure out the best way to go about creating content, still maintaining my privacy, still being able to feel free creatively within the confines of these platforms and algorithms. So I know this a lot. I do want to continue this conversation and talk about what I feel like we should do as parents. And I would just say, like, having said all of that, it is still a great time to be alive. This is an amazing time to be alive. We are seeing prophecy unfold. Do we know how long it's going to take? No, I hope it takes 100 years. I want my children to be able to be adults. And, I don't want to be in Armageddon. I don't want to deal with the Antichrist in human form. And, I just, being honest, I don't want to deal with it. I would love that this is far off. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it is what it is. And it's a time to be alive, to be able to see this stuff, and to be a witness to things that we've heard about our whole lives, especially if we were in the church. So, we should not be depressed by it, but we are human. Again, that was the whole point of this video, to talk about being in the balance of that. As a parent, I just want to say to other parents, if you have children, we got to get our stuff together. We need to be preparing. We need to be storing up things. We need to be teaching our children about the word. We need to be teaching them how to pray. We need to be helping them memorize scriptures, knowing how to call on the Lord, knowing how to discern evil from good. We have to protect our children. The Epstein files show you that. If the fact that nobody's been investigated and this is something that they lied about even existing, that these things have been done all these years, so out in the open. I mean, the whole Pizzagate thing and how folks are like bringing back receipts. Like, we got to protect the kids. If we can't protect the kids, we don't even deserve to be here. They are innocent children. So parents, please protect your kids. Please teach them what they need to know. Teach them life skills so they are not dependent on a system. Help them understand AI and understand what it is. Because like before, I work in media. That is my professional line of work, media and communications. I'm actually about to start a whole new endeavor. Crazy me. It's not a new endeavor, but I'm expanding something that I've already been working on to help parents and people really learn media literacy. But that is something that is going to be so crucial for them in the age of AI. Parents, please protect your kids and prepare them. And that is not fear mongering. That's just real. A good parent prepares their kid for the world. A good parent helps their children learn from their mistakes, like things that I went through, things that I had questions about. I don't want my children to have to go through that. So I'm just not trying to be like the parents and police, because that's totally not me. I'm just saying, spend time with your kids. Teach them what they need to know. Teach them history so they won't be deceived. That's what I mean. Just whatever you got to do to prepare them so they are not deceived. When these things unfold, if it pass, if we make it out of here without seeing it and they have to see it, they need to know. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to get heavy at the end, but it's real. And I know I've mentioned Pastor Darby so many times, but that's something that I remember him saying in a sermon, like, this is heavy. That's why we watch our shows. Like, I love reality TV shows, Married to Medicine, Housewives. Like, that's why we binge watch, and that's why we dive into our books and watch TV and get into sports and scroll social media till we can't scroll no more, because the realities and dealing with the real things, it gets heavy. Spiritual things, it gets heavy, and it's not a good feeling. But we have an opportunity to embrace it and let it transform us versus ignoring it and ending up getting caught slipping. And however you want to take that. But yeah, that's just what I've been thinking. I just wanted to kind of get these thoughts out. I hope this video reaches people, because YouTube is not the same. It's really hard to get views and stuff on videos. So I'm hoping that this video reaches people. And if it reached you and you reached the end of this video and you enjoyed it, please consider giving me a like so that it pops up in the feeds of other people. I would love to, hear what you have to think about this topic and anything that I said. I just would appreciate the engagement so that this video can get out to more people and I can find my tribe, because I don't want to be the only person in my circle thinking about this stuff and silently freaking out from time to time. My husband told me, he was like, Jessica, you need to stop watching what you're watching. And he's right, which I have, but even the thumbnails freak me out. But he was like, you need to stop watching what you're watching. You need to talk about it. He doesn't believe that we're going to see these things. He was like, people been saying this since I was little. We've always heard about the end times. It's always been a thing. And I'm like, yeah, but somebody gonna be right, So he and I are totally different in the way that we look at that. So that's what I mean. I'm over here stirring out about it by myself. He's like, girl, relax. So no, but seriously, let me know what y'all think. And if you want to see more content from me, please subscribe. I honestly don't know how this channel is going to go. I've toyed with different things. I really want to do commentary. I also want this to be a place where I can have fun. You know, I don't want to worry about fitting a certain type of box because I don't fit in a box. So I can't promise you that this is all I'll talk about. I might talk about reality TV sometimes. I might talk about other things sometimes because this is life and we are meant to live it and enjoy it. So I do a wide variety of things. I even stream gaming. Like, there's something that I've started to do, not on this channel, on my private channel that I'm not going to publicize. I just want you to find it organically. But yeah, so I can't really promise what you'll be seeing here all the time, but it's mainly going to be content and just, you know, fun stuff, lifestyle stuff, and, you know, whatever I feel like talking about. This is why my channel is called The Jessica Diaries. It's literally like my online diary of whatever is on my mind that I want to get out and share with the public. So if that sounds like something that you can vibe with, you vibe with me, please subscribe to my channel and consider supporting me on Patreon so I can make even more content and do even more fun things and interact with you all. So thank you again for watching. I love y'all. See you in the next video. Peace.